part of the Boundless Audio Podcast Network.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Artist Pivot Podcast. I am your host, Ayana Major Bey, and I happen to be an actor, voiceover artist, mentor, and world traveler. This is a bi-weekly show featuring conversations about pivots and life lessons from the perspective of artists, those who work in and around the arts, and arts educators. Everyone possesses the ability to pivot. You just have to be reminded sometimes, and that is what I am here to do. To stay up to date and in the know about merchandise, exclusive content, and how to support the show, please subscribe to the newsletter at ayanabey.com/podcast. That's AYANABEY.com/podcast. And there is a link in the show notes. We'll get to this week's episode after a word from our sponsors. I have found that therapy is a tool to use to improve your life in one of the healthiest ways. For those who are working on their mental health and well-being, on a journey of facing your fears, or trying therapy for the first time, our show sponsor BetterHelp is here to help you. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. Join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/artistpivot. That's betterhelp.com/artistpivot. All right, y'all. So today on the podcast, I am excited to say that joining me is Sierra White, and they were born, raised, and still based in the greatest city in the world, Chicago, Illinois. Their favorite thing to do when they were little were tell stories, dress up, and sing. The fact that they managed to make that into a career makes the little kid in them over the moon every day. Y'all, welcome Sierra White to the podcast.
Hello, Artist Pivot Podcast. Hi, Ayana.
Hello, Sierra. Hello. Honey, we almost didn't make it. Y'all. Technology has been acting up today.
Mm-hmm.
But you will hear the podcast. You will hear what Sierra has to say on today. We will not let technology defeat us.
We can't be stopped. We simply cannot.
We cannot be stopped. We cannot be stopped. So Sierra, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And so I want to start with my favorite question of all. If I were to text you right now and say, how you doing? How you feeling? How's your day going? What's going on? But you could only respond in emojis only. What would you text me?
Well, just from today's events alone, I'm going to have to send you the hand covering the mouth emoji, the shocked one. Uh-huh. Every day is surprising, shocking, full of thrills. A little ghosty because I'm always feeling very spooky. Yes. And probably the fountain drink or like the milkshake thing. I love a beverage. I'm a type of person who has like a million cups around me at all times. So I feel like those three work for me.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you for that imaginary text.
Mm-hmm, of course.
I love that. Yeah. And I can sometimes be the person who has like a million cups around me at like one. Like today I only have water. Like I have my big jug of water. But the other day I had water. I think I had a coffee and then something else. And I was like, how did I get 3 cups in here with me? What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, you're just staying hydrated, but also you need your caffeine boost. But also maybe you want like something sweet. I don't know.
A little variety, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Well, thank you so much for that text. And y'all, Sierra and I met like 12 years ago, something like that.
Yes, sir. 2012.
2012. And it's been a while. And we've both made some pivots in said time. But today you're going to hear about Sierra's pivots. That's what you're going to hear about. And so I want to start with how your career began.
Well, just like most of us entertainers, when I was little, I was telling everybody I wanted to do it all. I wanted to be an actor, a singer, a model, a dancer. But as much fun as I thought that was, I thought it was just something you said, and then you just got a real job. So I did theater all the way up through junior high school, and ended up majoring in marketing believe it or not, in college instead.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I thought it sounded fun. To this day, it does sound interesting to me. But that lasted all of 2 days.
2 whole days.
Yep,
2
2
whole
days. Just about. It could have been shorter, like a day and some change.
Yeah.
And that's because I found out my undergrad had a musical theater major, or minor, actually, minor. So I was like, okay, I'll just, dip a toe in the musical theater minor, but then still get a real degree, a real job. And that's that. So in order to get cast in anything, you have to do 2 things. You have to meet with your advisor, whoever your advisor is going to be for your minor in theater. And you have to audition a little bit. So I met with my advisor, and the meeting I think was supposed to last like 20, 30 minutes. Just talk about what being a minor means and how to balance your course loads between 2 different things. And I think that meeting ended up taking at least a couple hours.
Wow.
We talked and talked ad nauseum about theater, all the things I loved about the art form of telling stories through music, costume design, just everything about it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the meeting, my advisor looked at me very concerned, like I thought I was in trouble. And she said, "You made a mistake." And I was thinking, paperwork, what did I do? Am I not allowed? And she said, "You're a musical theater major."
Wow.
And I will say I have been a bit of a pushover in my life. And so rather than questioning it, I said, "Okay, you're right," and changed my major that day.
Wow.
That was that. I didn't think about it.
Okay.
I just said, "All right, if you say so." And that could have gone horribly awry, but I'm so grateful every day that professor saw something in me and knew that I was about to miss an opportunity. And I decided to just trust them and go along with it. So that's how I got on the course to do it professionally. I graduated college with a BFA, musical theater performance. I was very, very lucky to have some gigs booked going out. So as soon as I graduated, I had a full year's worth of shows booked and ready to go. The next year post college, I already had my equity card. So things were really like burning hot and fast for me. I think I worked for just about 3 years straight on some really great contracts, traveled the country doing lots of regional theater work. And then it stopped. Just the rug got pulled out from under me. We all know going out of school, it's not going to be easy. The struggle is real. And I will say I was fortunate that didn't happen for me. However, I didn't prepare myself for it to happen at all because of that. So I was very sad. I got a day job working at a lovely childcare place, just trying to make it work, going to auditions. And as it would happen, a friend of mine had been working doing singing and cabaret work for private parties and corporate events with a group. And they were called the Chicago Cabaret Project. I believe it was a little while ago. And she had a gig that she couldn't make out of nowhere, like last minute, she couldn't do it. And so they were looking for someone who had a big musical theater rep, big book, who wasn't afraid to stand in front of an audience. And that was just about it because it was a last minute gig. So she referred me to them, and literally I threw on a black dress, just something nondescript, a black dress and some heels. And they said, "Bring every book you have because this private party is going to be a long time. We have a live accompanist and we're just going to be singing songs." And so I brought everything. I think I went to the leader's house, like the boss of the group, an hour before they had to leave. And they said, "Sit down at this piano. We want to hear you sing." Like either I was getting left on the porch, you know what I mean? And they were just going to make it work. Or I was getting in the car. But they said, give your book to the accompanist.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna pick, ballad, up tempo, some standards. We're just gonna flip through your book, see what you got.
Yeah.
And I guess I did okay because they put me in the car.
Right. They were like, okay, you coming with us.
Yeah. It was my first time working a private party. And it was kind of my first, how do I explain it? My first experience without a fourth wall with the audience.
Okay.
Because, a big part of cabaret and lounge work is about working the crowd. And you're not only telling a story through song, which I love, but you're giving every person their own intimate experience in that song.
Yeah.
And that happens at, parties too. You just kind of walk around, and while people are enjoying themselves, you're giving them almost an immersive experience into the song. And I didn't know that was possible.
Okay.
Coming out of standard theater, I had no idea, but I was once again bitten by the bug. And I started doing more work with them. Thankfully, they liked what I did that night.
Yeah.
And really just started watching them more closely. They did a lot of corporate events and gigs at B&Bs and restaurants. So very, very different from your typical stage, proscenium curtains. A lot more relaxed, not less difficult by any means.
Right. Dare I say more difficult? Because you have to interact with the audience.
Yeah, you get better at small talk. I will say that, and getting to know different people.
Transferable skills.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first cabaret experience. And from there, things just kept rolling. And a lot of, I feel like, nightlife cabaret variety work is through who you know and who you've worked with before. So I have been very, very lucky to have worked with some very kind people who have not forgotten about me.
Yeah.
And have brought me into lovely situations that I wasn't expecting to be in that have changed the course of my life. So that's as little as I could say about the start of my cabaret experience without going on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. But so I have a couple of directions I want to go in. So number one, the fact that you were able to say okay to what your friend was offering, like, hey, can you do this gig? Like, you had never performed in a cabaret before, and you were like, okay, sure, why not? I'll do it. Like that, just having that in you to fine, well, let's try it. Let's try it.
Well, I missed it. You know what I mean? To go from being immersed in theater every day for 4 years in college, and then it's my job every day for 3 years. And to just not be on stage. And you get a little bit, you get your 90-second performance when you go into an audition room, but it's not the same. And to have an opportunity to just bring my whole book and sing some of my favorite songs in the whole wide world, yes, get paid, but just to be able to be with a live piano again and do the thing I love the most. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm free. I'm not doing anything tonight. Let's go.
Right. Yes. I love that. And that opportunity presented itself. And you were like, yes, here I am. And so I also want to ask you, you did say that, the cabaret. What? Y'all. Okay. So wait, I just have to. Okay. Sierra and I have been battling technology this whole recording process. We started on Zencaster. We're now on Zoom. To my editor, Kieran, I adore you. Thank you for making this thing work. But now my watch. This is the second time she want to have an opinion about what's happened. I don't know who I upset today, Sierra, but I rebuke it because my technology is acting up. But now back to you. Saying that you find that in the cabaret world, it's more about who you know and who you've worked with. And would you say that is 99% part of it? Because with theater, you can at least, it still is about who you know, don't get me wrong, but you could at least like go to an audition and get seen. Do you
Mhm.
find that cabaret is like, nah, it's just who we know?
There's not many. I won't say there aren't any, but there's not many auditions
Okay.
For cabaret work. And because it's a lot of like gig work where it's like you got to be in, you got to be out, you got to know what you're doing. I think a lot of people who are booking that type of entertainment will go mostly based off a reference. That's what I was trying to think of the word for reference of other trusted artists.
Yeah.
Because it's just faster and it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And your reputation, precedes you. You know that, oh, this person's going to show up. They're going to do well. We like their presence. Find somebody, find Sierra White. Please get her over. Like, yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
And I think it's also because the businesses are different. Because those people, these are restaurants.
Yeah.
These are bars. You know, these are private ticketed events. If the entertainer can't deliver, then they are directly losing money.
Wow. I never thought about it that way. Thank you for like highlighting that.
Yeah. It's something I never thought about until I started working in it and just trying my best to absorb as much as possible. And I'm still learning. I'm by no means an expert. There are incredible people out there.
You are an expert in your own right. You can be an expert and still learning.
That is you are
an expert true. Because of the years you put in. So yes, you are, but you're also still learning.
Thank you. You're
welcome. So my question would be then, in that transition from theater to cabaret, what did that feel like? First of all, just like emotionally, because as a theater kid, you're like, but I'm not, I guess I'm performing, but I'm not doing theater. But also like physically, like we know what it's like to be on stage, but you having to command a room is going to require a little bit of growth from you as a person. So take me kind of through that process, that pivot for you going from theater into full-time cabaret. And also we'll get to you making your own cabaret, which I want to hear about.
I'm sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You hit the nail right on the head when you talk about the emotion and the shame in the beginning. Like, I know it's a big, heavy word, but that's what I felt. My senior year of college, I had a review like many universities do. And I'll be honest, it was not the best. And one of the people at the table said to me, I don't think you'll make it as an actor.
What?
Yeah. And they said, almost as if it were an insult, maybe you should look into cabaret or lounge singing.
Wow.
And so that was really the impression I had of that type of work before I got into it. So when I fell into it and I started doing it more regularly and liking it, and that was more of what paid my rent than traditional theater was, I was a little embarrassed. I was ashamed. I felt like I failed. Because I feel like a lot of undergrad, they teach Broadway or bust. You know, a lot of what we hear is like, if you're not on stage in Broadway, then you should be in Hollywood making a TV show, or you should be, in Atlanta making a TV show, or Hollywood making a movie. Like, that's it. And so I just felt terrible. Like, I failed.
Yeah.
But then I remembered how much I really connected with cabaret work. And I started getting hired to write my own full shows, as you mentioned before.
Yeah.
And I realized that's huge. And of course, I have family and friends who are like, don't minimize your accomplishments.
That.
Right?
That.
Because and now I can see it more clearly. I write, direct, produce some of my own shows. I make my own costumes. I style my own wigs. I mean, that's art direction. I come up with my own acts when they're more evolved acts that have props or like bits. In some cases, the lighting design, like I'm doing it all. And of course, I couldn't have done that without my theater background. But that is by no means a failure.
None.
That's a career.
That's a career. That's a win. That's a whole win. And it's a whole career. And it's a whole, like, you're in your lane, so you kind of can't fail type of situation. Like,
yeah, I really found what I was supposed to be doing. And I don't think I would have found it without that drop off, without the job stopping. Yeah. Sometimes you need a hard reset.
It's that that's like a hard reset. And like, you had it earlier in your career, but I think some of us have it later. Like, for me, it was the pandemic. That hard stop, I was like, oh, okay, well, what else can I do? I have so many talents. Like, what else can I do besides musical theater?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you, fortunately, now looking back, fortunately, you had it earlier in your career.
Well, I would say the pandemic was hard stop number 2.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm trying to think of a timeline that makes sense. I eventually evolved to the point where I was a full-time professional singer and actor for 3 years.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic hit.
Okay.
And I had 2020, I always tell everybody, was supposed to be the biggest year of my life. I have a silly picture from New Year's Eve going into 2020 with my husband, where we're holding like champagne glasses. And I think I literally screamed like, "This is my year."
Yeah.
I had just shot my first movie. I had just shot my first commercial.
Okay.
I had a theater had commissioned me to write one full one-person show with music, and they were going to build it up. So by the end of it, I had like a 5-piece band.
Wow.
And it was going to be huge. I had just been cast as Paulette in Legally Blonde for the fall.
Yes.
So I was ready to go. And of course, all of that in the pandemic was gone. And I didn't know what I was going to do anymore. And a producer in Chicago, he produces a lot of like burlesque variety work. The nicest man in the world, Bazooka Joe. Shout out to Bazooka Joe if anybody wants to look him up at the Newport Theater. He reached out to me, and once again, he heard through word of mouth that I was a singer who did vintage style entertainment and cabaret work, and he was looking for a cabaret singer to be in his variety show. So up until this point, I was doing, like I said, traditional private parties, and then my cabaret lounge work was like, I'll sit in a nice chair by a piano, and sing out to a bar full of people.
Yeah.
He was looking for someone to sing in his variety show with like drag performers, burlesque artists, old school entertainment, and be, put a little bit more razzle dazzle into it. And once again, it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm not doing anything. Okay.
Right. Okay, let's go.
Here I go. And the show had a terrible blizzard. I think the audience ended up being like 8 people, plus the cast just sat in the house.
Yeah.
But there were some producers from that same variety circuit there. And plus, like I said, the rest of the cast got to watch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I started getting referrals for these more involved burlesque variety bookings. So I don't do burlesque, but I call myself the ginger on the sushi plate that is burlesque. So, you'll have these incredible artists who come out and they do their thing, their striptease. And then I'll come out and I'll sing you something saucy, flirt with you a little bit, a flick of a fan or a satin scarf, reset the mood. And then they'll come out and do their thing. And now I've been doing that almost exclusively.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's just, it feels like actually mini versions of musicals. Like I'm developing my own numbers.
I literally was just thinking that. I was going to make that comment. Like, I was like, you have your own musicals.
Yeah.
Personal musicals.
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing since the pandemic. And it's the most fulfilling, the most fun and wonderful thing. And if that's been my 2 resets.
Yeah.
Bring on reset number 3.
Come on. I can't wait to see your reset number 3. Like if those were the 2 resets, right? Like what? But your musical theater background informed that. But even before that, you as a child playing around and making up and dressing up and doing all of this informed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just getting paid for it now. You were doing it for free back then.
I'm just paying my rent with it now, baby.
Yes. Come on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that your pivots have fulfilled you each step of the way. Because I know sometimes pivots can be out of panic, like if the industry starts to slow down or shut down, or you're like, okay, well, what do I got to do now to like pay my rent? But I am excited, happy, grateful for you that your pivots revealed your other loves in essence.
Thank you. I feel like though a big part is I do have to actively remind myself not to say no to the gifts that are afforded me by the universe.
Ooh, okay.
Because, and tell me if you feel like this.
Yeah.
Sometimes something will pop up in your email and somebody will be like, hey, are you available for this? And you think, wow, what an incredible opportunity. That would be so amazing. Why would they ask me? I don't think I can do that.
A little imposter syndrome coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I sometimes will have to like close out an email and like give myself a pep talk.
Yeah.
And like, think about it. You're so excited. They reached out to you. As I always said before, this is their business. They're not looking to pick just whoever. Like they're presenting this to you for a reason. Get out of your own way and go get it. So I feel like that has always been hard, but
yeah. Ooh, that just gave me a little flutters, right? Like get out of your own way and go get it. But I have experienced that myself of like, well, why would they email me, or why would they choose me, or why would I do that? Like you know you have the gift, like you clearly have this gift, but you're like, if you were like, no, I can't, I'm not going to do cabaret. I don't think I can do that. Like before you even try. And there are things like, I remember starting this podcast. I'm like, why would I don't even know the first thing about podcasting, but I've learned.
And you're like, incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. And like, I love stories. I was a kid like you telling stories. I love telling stories, but I also love hearing stories. I love hearing people's stories. And like, I was in the creative entrepreneur class once, and one of the like gifts that someone said to me was like, you're a very good listener, Ayana. Like you listen to understand. And so it's like, why wouldn't you be a podcaster? You like hearing people's stories. You're like, go ahead, talk. I want to hear it. You know? And it's like, that's a gift.
It really is, because I have no attention span. So it could not be me. But and you're so warm and inviting. So you're doing exactly what you need to be doing.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. So my next question to you would be, in thinking about your career and like the next pivot you would want to take, what is something that like you're envisioning for yourself?
Oh boy. I'm so glad you asked this. I talk about this a lot recently, and I sincerely hope I can make this happen. It will take a lot of work. But a newer pivot for me is I will be a producer for a burlesque and variety show called Boobs and Bingo.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm making my production debut next month. Or is it this month? Oh my goodness, time is flying. Next month, July 15th. And so as a producer, which I'm finding I really love, because now I'm getting to give opportunities to other entertainers, and still putting on shows, but just getting to like revel more in the entire, what's the word? Collaborative nature of it. I've always wanted to do what I've been calling in my head time machine nights, immersive one night only events
Mm-hmm.
where, say we would pick the 1940s, right?
Yeah.
And I would get a beautiful venue, vintage venue hall. I would get a big band. I would, have food, cocktails, and the audience would come in. They're invited to dress of the era, and it would
Okay.
just be a night in the 1940s, like fully immersive.
Ooh.
That would be my dream. Like it's a show, but it's also a dance hall event
It's
that
an
you attend.
experience.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I
Oh,
want. That's my
I
dream is to do those.
love that for you.
Thank you.
And it's on its way.
I
That's
hope so.
It's on its way. Yes. I mean, you've already planted the seeds for it.
Oh goodness. I mean, it would take a lot,
Yeah,
but
but here's the thing. Let me remind you because I was reminded of this the other day. If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough.
oh, Ayana.
So I'm going to impart that to you because somebody had to remind me.
I love that. If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough.
They're not big enough. They don't scare you.
Oh, I knew this was gonna be good. Preach, please.
So listen, I'm here for that. Produce all of them. I want every era. And I need to
I,
make sure that I can fly to Chicago to experience it.
please, you know what? The very first one I do, you're getting a ticket.
Amen. Sierra, I will tell you exactly what I'm wearing and I will fly in.
All right. You think I will remember? Look, I'm writing it down right now.
Please do. Please do. And send me them. I'm gonna do an unveiling of the invitation that I get. Wait, are you see, I'm just assuming you're gonna send out invitations, but maybe it might be digital. I don't know. But whatever it is, whatever invitation, hard copy or digital, I'm gonna record myself opening it because this conversation right now will be like, remember that time? Y'all,
Hmm.
we're here. I'm opening the invitation to the experience that Sierra White is producing, and I'm flying to
Oh my
Chicago.
gosh. That's it. When I do it, it may take a couple years,
Okay,
but
and
you're gonna get an invitation.
woo,
My
I'm
my
excited.
cheeks hurt. If you're not watching this recorded version, you're just listening to the podcast, everyone. My cheeks hurt from smiling so much.
Yes, glad I could be of service. You should they should be hurting from smiling, but I love that. But and I think I have to take this on myself of like being reminded if my dreams do not scare me, they're not big enough. And like this dream that you have, yes, it may take a couple years and you'll get there. Like you'll get there. But I'm excited because you're starting it now by producing now,
I'm
the
so
smaller
excited.
things now.
Yeah.
Yes. And so my question for you then was did someone ask you to produce? Did you find somewhere that was like, we need a producer for this, new cabaret show? How does that work? Because that's also something I want to dive into, but I'm like, you don't just go to an audition as a producer.
No, yeah, someone did ask me, actually, a friend from undergrad.
Oh, okay.
They messaged me and it wasn't the normal, like, hey, what you doing? How you?
Mm-hmm.
They were just like, hey, I would love to talk to you over coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. And they sat me down and talked about the show. Boobs and Bingo was something they had started, but at a much smaller scale.
Okay.
It was maybe happening 3-4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
But it was growing in popularity. They wanted to have it monthly. They wanted to make it bigger. And they wanted help producing, streamlining, organizing on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me, you have experience in that. So I thought, you'd be great. And plus you're a good friend, somebody I trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't have experience in that. And she was like, oh, yes, you do from your cabarets. And I was like, no, I can't do that. So I actually turned her down.
What?
Yes. And a good friend of mine, who is someone I think you'd actually love to talk to for this podcast, actually.
Great.
My friend Jillian Page, she's based out of New York.
Mm-hmm.
She is a trailblazing vocal coach with Meisner and Music.
Mm-hmm.
She came to visit Chicago and we went to brunch and I was telling her, oh, listen to this silly thing. If somebody asked me to produce, just throwing it away. And she looked at me and she was like, you are a producer. And I was like, no, I've never done that. Mm-hmm. And she broke down piece by piece those very shows that I told you I was commissioned to do. Mm-hmm. She was like, you wrote them, you directed them, you did art direction for them, you did choreography, you found the music cuttings, you figured out the timing, you figured out breaks for commercial, she was just going. And it was the first time that I thought, maybe I am a producer. So I called my friend back and I was like, hey, remember a couple months ago, did you find somebody? And she was like, no. And I told her, all right, let's go for it.
Ooh, that gave me chills because that opportunity was waiting for you because she didn't find somebody else. And so your other friend had to be like, let me change your perspective so that you can grab this opportunity that was still waiting for you to be a producer.
And I feel like that's a big part of also getting out of your way is making sure that you have people around you who will hear you out and love you and want you to succeed, but also aren't afraid to say, that's silly. What are you talking about?
That part. They'll be like, I love you, but also let me not necessarily read you. I don't want to, because reading is tough. That's a little too harsh. But like, they're going to gather you. They're going to be like, friend, what?
Yeah.
What? Oh my goodness. So, you have friends who will keep you together. And like, I think that's very important. Your tribe and like who you surround yourself with to be like, friend, I love you. I love you dearly. And this is why I'm finna say that's stupid.
Do you hear yourself right now? I don't like the words you're saying. I need a lot of people like that around me because it's so easy to fall into that, that imposter syndrome.
Yeah. That's it. So my last question to you would be, what would be your word of advice to other artists and quite frankly, other humans about pivoting and like the lessons you've learned along the way, but like, what would be your nugget of wisdom?
I can't say that it's fully my nugget of wisdom.
Okay.
My mother, is a great friend of mine. We're very, very close.
Yeah.
I know it's strange to say my mother's a friend of mine, but she is. And
sorry, I was just going to say some parents and children are not friends. Yeah, I will say that because I'm friends with my mom, but I do know some who are not friends. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think she's an incredible human being. She's been through a lot. And once she said something to me that just struck me and it stayed with me forever and ever. And I tell it to everybody I know. She said, lives are meant to be lived, not compared.
Ooh.
And she said that to me during that first pivot we talked about.
Yeah.
Where I was just not getting any work and wasn't sure, I was starting to doubt myself.
Yeah.
And all the time I would say, well, so-and-so is doing this. Or such and such is over there doing that. And they just got cast in this. And this person's recording that,
Yeah.
And she said, lives are meant to be lived, not compared. You're all on your own individual paths. Their path, might have an easier time going downhill is bad. But you know what I mean? Like you might pick up more momentum going downhill faster at this point.
Yeah.
But who knows when that next mountain's going to come,
Yeah.
So all you can do is focus on what you're doing in front of you. And just enjoy the ride. Take the bumps where they come,
Yeah.
And I never thought about that. We spend so much time comparing our lives to other people, but it's just that their lives are their lives and our lives are ours. And there is no comparison.
Right. Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you, Mom, for instilling that in Sierra. Thanks,
Mama Kitchen, Mama K.
Yes, Mama K. But that's so beautiful. But you know what? It's so true. But it's unfortunate that we've kind of been trained that way. Excuse me. Not just in the arts, but I think in society of like hitting certain milestones at certain ages, which is made up.
Absolutely.
It's all made up. You're like, by 30, you should be doing this. Who says so? my life is different than the person I'm sitting next to. My life is different than yours, Sierra. Your life is different than mine. And embracing that. And we are allowed because we can give ourselves permission. But society as a whole will kind of look down. Well, this person was on Broadway when they were 21 and did it. Okay.
All right. That's what they're doing. That's wonderful for them.
Right.
I feel like I've been more happy as an individual since I took on that mindset, because it really can weigh you down. And I feel like I'm able to dance more in other people's joys.
Ooh.
Like,
ooh.
Like life is so much better when you can look over at your friend who's doing whatever they're doing and be like, yes, you go. You know what I mean? And not instead bog yourself down with, well, why aren't I doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love the way you put that. You can dance in other people's joy. Can I borrow that?
Yes, absolutely.
I love that because it's so true. Like when you're on your own path, you really can dance in other people's joy.
Yeah.
Because you also know that was meant for them and not for you. And sometimes you're like, I didn't even want that. And I'm glad you got it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can find happiness in celebrating other people's happiness. I don't know why we forget that sometimes.
I don't know why either. Oh, but I love that. I really love that.
I'm glad because it's true.
It is. It's so true. It's so true. And especially in the arts when we're bringing joy, we bring laughter and joy, sometimes some tears if it's a really serious subject we're talking about. But laughter and joy is what we bring to the world.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we want to bask in it at all times, including our friends and colleagues and fellow artists?
As often as you can, especially because, good times are not given. But we do know bad times are coming. You know what I mean? And maybe that's a little pessimistic. But so why not relish in the joys and the happiness that you see around you and that you're experiencing as much as possible.
Yeah. Oh, my heart is so full from that. It's so full. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Oh, Sierra, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for sharing your pivots and your lessons. And you're still learning, but you are an expert. So, you are an expert, but you're also
I can do both. I learned that on this podcast. I can be an expert who's also still learning.
Yes. And so before I let you go, two things. Where can people find you out here in the internet streets?
Sure. I'm very easy to find. Let me tell you. I'm on Instagram at THE Sierra, like the mist, white like the color. So the Sierra White. Also, if you want to, check out my website, it's thesierrawhite.com. And those are the two main places I am. I've got link trees to shows. So if you're in the Chicagoland area and you want to catch me crooning a tune or hosting some burlesque, or maybe you want to catch my production debut this coming month, you can find it all there.
Great. Those were subtle flexes, but
No, I wasn't trying to flex on you, but
what you should be. So everybody peep those subtle flexes, and I approve. So don't worry, all of that will go in the show notes so you can connect with Sierra. And I must say to you that I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. And I feel that from you. You are so warm and so inviting and so engaging. And I just had a blast talking with you. It's been too long.
I know it has. And same here. I had a blast talking to you. Thank you for coming on. And I thank you. I received those compliments. Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope you have been informed and inspired by this week's episode. Make sure to hit the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes are out. To stay up to date and in the know about merchandise, exclusive content, and how to support the show, please subscribe to the newsletter at ayanabey.com/podcast. That's AYANABEY.com/podcast. And there's a link in the show notes. This show's executive producer is Ayana Major Bey, and editor is Kieran Niemand. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll speak to you soon.